Those making over $100K per year. How hard was it to get over that threshold? Tell us how it was for you, or read in the comments who will share. It will be very interesting. Enjoy watching. Story 1. A lot longer than it should have. You don't get raises by staying unless you're the boss. 60% raise for leaving, and 10% raise soon after that because I was still underpaid. No job now, but plan on something soon and I'll be right back to where I was. At some point it's just ego, so I'll take a lower salary if it doesn't mean an hour commute one way. Story 2. I'm a senior network engineer. I had worked at Walmart for 8 years before, joined the Army Reserve to go back to school, and then got into tech making $40K/YR starting. With OT, that was like $50K, did that for 3 years, then job hopped quite a bit to find somewhere paying $65K. After that, I got a job where my security clearance from the Army was still applicable for $80K, and rode that to $105K as an employee after a year as a contractor. I have since moved states and jobs, and am making $125K working remote full-time for a much smaller business, but with an extremely low level of stress. Story 3. 2 years in tech. I probably could have been making 6 figures sooner, but honestly, it didn't occur to me that I could ask for that much and be taken seriously. If I'm honest, it didn't feel hard effort-wise. It was more like I needed to wrap my head around deserving that much money. Now I throw crazy numbers out there. Worst thing they can say is no. Shrug. I work in UX. No engineering experience, no developer experience, no coding experience. Story 4. Been working in the IT space for over approximately 10 years now, and broke $100K 3 years ago. Switching jobs every approximately 2 years helps a lot, especially if you gained knowledge in those years. But I also put in a lot of overtime, volunteering for the hardest tasks, clients, etc. When I wanted to learn networking, I took an overnight shift NOC job in tandem with my help desk job. I would work 3 days on the help desk Monwed from 9 a.m. 5 p.m., get Thursday off, come in Frysat from 11 p.m. 8 a.m., get Sunday off. Doing this helped me jump to another job which paid $60K up from $40K. Story 5. Moved to a place with better salaries, though higher cost of living, which is fine. There's stuff to actually do here. Spent the next 8 years taking on more responsibilities until I would get slightly rewarded enough to finally cross 6 figures. Stayed there 2 more years until they decided that I needed to be on call and I wouldn't be getting any more compensation for that change. This was a position that never needed on call until they decided to cut loose people with experience that were normally on call and hire a bunch of college grads that didn't know what they were doing yet. We were expected to wake up at 3 a.m. when something went wrong and tell them what to do. Politely, I asked them why the hell do they think I would stick around for that. They avoided any real answers, which basically told me I had to suck it up or leave. So I left. Now I have better pay, full-time WFH, a ridiculously good bonus structure. Took me all of 3 months to find something way better. Wish I had looked sooner. Story 6. Started a company. Made jack shit for half a decade. Significantly less than my peers, and at times just simply bled money like crazy. Sacrificed massive amounts of time, developed an anxiety disorder, developed a drinking problem, damaged my marriage a bit, had multiple mental breakdowns, lost my gym habit, and gained weight. So yeah, hard. Granted, it does seem like I'm going to wave at 100K as I pass by it, so maybe I'll make up those 5 years quickly. Who knows, maybe eventually I'll even think it was worth it LMAO. Story 7. If you're in tech sales, it's not hard. Grind, 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 sell, 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 and 100K should happen. If it isn't happening in tech sales, the rep is doing something wrong. I will say that my company has a cap on how much they want to pay their sales reps, but 100K is doable. 200K, not so much anymore. 150K with lots of work and luck. Obviously, this is base plus commission / bonus / spiffs, whatnot. Story 8. I did 20.5 years of active duty enlisted in the Air Force in a technical field. I capped out a little under $80K at end of my service. I transitioned into a corporate job doing essentially the same thing I did the first 2-3 of my military career before I was consigned to a management role. The pay is just under 6 figures, but I have my military pension on top, which pushed me over $140K. I anticipate it'll be another year and a half before I break $150K. $100K was my goal for 40. I was a few months shy of 41 when I exceeded it. My goal for 45 is $150K, and I'm on track for that to be a reality as well. None of it was hard, IMO. You just had to show up, have some professionalism and work ethic. and actively seek opportunities for self-improvement, whether that was formal education or on-the-job training for additional experience or skill sets. I might have been more of a go-getter in my youth, but these days I'm pretty lazy about the whole thing. I go to work, do my job, and do it well, and then go home and enjoy time with the wife and my hobbies. In the more than 2.5 years since I left the military, I've exceeded 80 hours in a 2-week pay period exactly once, and that just meant I worked less a following pay period since it became comp time. Story 9. Hit 100K when I was 21 doing 911 dispatch. Next year went into the laborers union in Boston and was making 110-120K with overtime. 24 I left the union to be a day trader. Haven't looked back. Honestly, it was just having good connections and networking. Then learning to trade from 17 years old to 24 was brutal, although I wouldn't change the journey at all. Many hard lessons learned and had my ego checked hard. Nothing humbles a man more than losing money because of his own mistakes. Story 10. Started as a bank teller in 2011, making $11.25 an hour. Currently a risk consultant making just over 100K. It took a lot of job and department hopping, networking, and grinding to get here. Now that I'm here, I still feel unfulfilled and am working to get a regulatory certificate, so I can keep climbing. I don't have a financial education background as I studied sociology. I would say when I started, it was possible to work your way up without that educational background. I would say today it would be close to impossible. Story 11. I don't know that anyone's answer here is going to be perfectly generalizable. For me, not that hard. I'm smart with a good degree, and I happened into the right industry. For my mom, who's just as smart as me, and who also has good degrees, still not making 100K, I guess if you're looking for something more repeatable, you could follow the specific union steps that some people have laid out. Story 12. Not hard when I was willing to move, but impossible if I stayed in my hometown. I did military for 9 years as signal soldier. Got out, and if I want to work in my hometown, I'm looking at around 60K for my skill set. Instead, I decided to stay in the city I ETS'd out of and am able to make $110 plus profit sharing. My brother has a very similar story of graduating college only to make around 40-50K. Moving across the state to make around 80K in 2010, then moved states to make $150K plus, and has been steadily moving up from there while continuing their education. There are some smaller jumps in pay in between his, but I'm not super privy to all of that. Story 13. I saved some money and took out a loan to do a coding boot camp. First year I did the boot camp and got my first junior development position at 55K a year. Left that job before I had another one lined up because the boss was a horrible person. Found a program that would teach Salesforce development and pay you $15 an hour until they got you a job. They would negotiate a salary on your behalf and then take whatever they negotiated that was over 70K for the first year. Felt like a better option than working the grocery store for $15 an hour. Did that and stayed the full year at the company and got hired on at 90K and have had 2 annual raises to 105K currently. So it took about 4 years to go from being a high school dropout bouncer with no applicable skills to where I am now. I never really worked hard and still don't. I just kind of did what people told me to do and studied what I needed to. Story 14. Not too hard once I made a career change. I was a bartender for 15 years, averaging between 40 and 60K a year. Finally made a career change at the age of 38. And my entry-level job started at 70K. I did it for about a year and a half, then got a new job doing the same exact thing for a different company, which came with a 30K increase. That put me right at the 100K mark. So about a year and a half after I made my career change. It just took a long time to get there. Story 15. I fell into it honestly. I was making about $55K a year doing tech support and was perfectly happy doing that. Then our team lead quit. I basically did team lead stuff when he was out of the office anyway, but some other guy on the team desperately wanted the job. He was a complete jerk, everyone hated him, and management didn't want to promote him. I really didn't want the job but knew I could never work for him, so I applied for it and got it. Still, I made less than $100K until my manager looked at my pay one day and asked, "Why are you the lowest paid team lead in the entire company?" I had no idea, but she jumped through hoops WHR. So my salary was similar to the rest of the company, which pushed me over the $100K mark. Story 16. Comp Sci degree. Entry-level application analyst position at contracting company. Decent raise after year of grinding long hours, switch to mid-level analyst. Data engineering role at new company after 1.5 years at first company. Grinded for 2 years with standard raises. A month later, new position opened at my company to manage a new data engineering team being built out. Took a chance and pushed really hard for it, despite not really being qualified, but overperforming in my current position and somehow talked them into giving it to me. Lots of extra hours early on. Still settling into the new job, but should be a bit more relaxed. I think the extra work paid off for me. I'm going to make 110K plus bonus this year, tilde 10-15%, and I'm only 26. There's also a built-in raise in my contract coming in a few months along with standard yearly raise at EOY. Story 17. I'm a scientist working in government and it took a long time. I love my job and career and I wouldn't trade it, but I could double or triple my salary in the private sector. In government, there is a natural progression and you don't have to job hop. But at least in my agency, you do have to take on management responsibilities. So less science and engineering, more people management and communication. Story 18. My partner is a firefighter if you find a good department, and it's completely dependent on the state you live in as well. You can easily make over 100K your first couple of years, and then you can go into specialties like swift water rescue or work your way up to captain, and they'll pay you more. I'm going into nursing, so it's similar. They start you out pretty good in the state I live in, and there's always different departments you can work in. We both will be making 200K plus by the time we're 25. Of course, these jobs are not for everyone, but they're jobs that are always needed. They are hard work at first, but definitely worth it. Story 19. Calculated moves and luck over the years. The last stroke of luck was applying for a job here on Reddit, of all places, for a job in my niche field. Company happened to be in tech, and it was during the Great Resignation. I almost crashed my car on the highway when I was talking to HR about salary because it was such a big jump. I started out as a HS teacher, never eclipsing $45K back in 13. 11 years ago, I had to be very daring to make that leap, considering my location. Even that first job out of teaching was a significant increase. I've made some choices that didn't work out along the way, and I've learned to play the long game, especially when things may not be going the way you want. That doesn't mean sitting tight and not doing anything. Just let things play out. Story 29 years as a part-timer waiting for a FT position to open up. I was really the only choice for when a position did become available, but I started to lose patience and hope by 2020. I did all the things you shouldn't do. Spent time working off the clock, dealt with work issues when I was off, even took on additional responsibilities that weren't historically part of my position. It paid off. But, in hindsight, I don't think anyone should have to do those things to stand out as a good employee. The circumstances around a position opening up were pretty tragic, but I did finally get promoted mid-2020. Salary quadrupled overnight. Story 21. For those who don't know, having a clearance and working for any company involved in the military-industrial complex is a pretty short trip to six-figure salaries. I don't even have a degree, just a hard-to-get level of credentials and several years of experience. My job is pretty easy once you learn your way around it, and my current work environment is the most comfortable and easy-going place. Team of coworkers I've ever had. Literally a dream job that's allowed a guy that was once living paycheck to paycheck in a one-bedroom apartment by the freeway to end up pretty comfortable now. Story 22. I fell into a profession that I had no experience in because a friend in the industry knew I was shopping around for a new gig and recommended me. Currently, 28 almost 3 years in, I am, and have been, a sales manager and make commission. The business acquired a very lucrative partnership, and our revenue year over year has been substantial. My first year, I totaled $55K. I renegotiated my commission last May. This past December, my W-2 was $89K. Based on my Q1 earnings for 2024, my projected gross this year will be around $150K. TL Dadar, I got really fucking lucky. I almost didn't take the interview. Story 23. I just started a job that will pay about $100K this year. It wasn't easy. I spent 2 years getting certified, and then 2 years teaching basically everything I just finished learning. First year, I made about $25K. Second year was about $50K. I wish my salary would continue to double indefinitely, but it's just a coincidence and it will shallow out LOL. Overall, it took me 5 years in my field to get where I am, which I would say is slightly longer than the average, but I made it, so who's counting? Top-end pay in my field varies, but it's not hard to make $500K plus eventually, and that's only working part-time. The only downside is flight school is very expensive. Story 24. Got lucky out the gate with a 35K-ish internship, pushed hard for a job, and got one offered at 50, way under market value for the position, but I was willing to eat shit for a while. Stayed there for a couple years, got good at the job, then lined up a spot at a different company doing the same for 70. Current company countered 80, to keep me because I had worked my way into a lot of processes, so I stayed. After about 2.5 years, with raises and biannual bonuses, I just recently crossed 100K. So almost 5 years exactly at this point. Learn stuff no one wants to do and then get insanely lucky. It's all a dice roll anyway. Story 25, I half-assed college and graduated with a degree in econ, which is basically useless other than as a piece of paper proving I can learn stuff. Then I dicked around for 2 years, working shitty low-stress jobs and partying and going to concerts. Then I decided to do the career thing and took a job at the absolute bottom of the totem pole as a junior software tester. It paid somewhere around $40K. Within 7 years, I was at $120K, mostly because the average person isn't very smart or competent. I was lead tester in 4 months, lead analyst in 2 years, and PM by like year 5. I felt like I couldn't help but keep getting promotions because my peer groups were just not very smart. That sounds like a shitty thing to say, but there are so many people who just don't get it in the workplace. Generally speaking, the best way to get ahead is to be the person that your boss only has to tell once and never has to constantly monitor. Managers love the people they don't have to constantly check in on or solve problems for. That doesn't mean hiding your faults or blockers, just not repeating mistakes. Understand the big picture of what you're trying to accomplish rather than being wrapped around the axle of fine details all the time, etc. So if you are in a technical field like IT systems ops or development, it should be pretty damn easy to get over $100K. Story 26. I graduated 6 years ago in CompTIA. Took an entry-level TSQL dev role at like $17 an hour or something. Quickly transitioned to a DBA role as one member of that team rage quit, literally, and I was a decent candidate to fill his position. COVID cut our IT staffing to 1/4, so my boss and I stepped in to help out with zero IT experience. I ended up doing IT systems work and then leading a small IT team, and am do that and lead a small DBA team. Make 100K on the nose. Lucky in the regard that I got so much upward mobility so quickly. Unlucky in that I am responsible for virtually all things I related in some capacity, and it's all very hard to keep up with without an IT background. Story 27. Took about 6 years after college and a career change to logistics. Before that, it was retail and film industry crew. Didn't make decent money in those fields and switched to logistics when I found out I had a knack for it. Made bank for my company during COVID when business boomed, and the importance of a dynamic supply chain became apparent to the success of the company. Logistics and supply chain management are rarely discussed on Reddit, but that career field is seeing a ton of growth and there is plenty opportunity for success. Story 28. I just got a CS degree, worked for about 6 months at a college department making peanuts while looking for the real job, and eventually got a referral to a Fortune 500 company through my boss at the college. Started at $75K, and it took me 4 years and 1 job hop, also a referral, to double that. Even though the market is tough now, new grads can probably do better than I did if they find a shop that's willing to develop them. Get to know people, and keep in contact when they leave. Your network is important. It also probably doesn't hurt that I got high performer raises at the first company, and averaged like 11% a year before jumping for 50%. Story 29. Not that hard. I'm pretty lucky. Somehow I just kept failing forward. After uni, bachelor in business, I didn't really know what I wanted or what I was good at, so I just started somewhere and job hopped a bit. First job paid 30-ish K, and now I am at 130K euros. I didn't care about salary at first. The third job was data analysis for a medical device company, and one of the sales managers wanted me as a sales rep. I figured, what the hell, let's try it. Turns out I'm good at sales, switched jobs twice more, and now I'm at 130-150K, depending on bonus. I am eternally grateful for that one sales manager that offered me the sales rep role and saw something in me. I myself had no idea, though. Story 30. I had to spend $100K and take 2 years off to attend a good business school, where I worked my ass off to graduate on the dean's list. Starting salary in investment banking was about 3x what I earned before, and was well over $100K with bonus. However, I worked my ass off for that. 6 days per week, often 12+ hours per day. People ask me all the time, should I get an MBA? I think it all depends on your work experience and what you need to excel in your career. I don't think most people need it, as experience wins over a piece of paper unless your employer needs you to get it, and will ideally pay for it. I absolutely needed it, as I was looking to change careers and move immediately into an intermediate level role without the years of experience as a junior. Luckily, I was able to leave with my sanity and marriage intact, and I work as a senior finance exec for a company that has a good culture and respects families and work-life balance, So I'm extremely lucky in many ways. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Be sure to write comments and share your stories.